3, 4. Glory to God in the highest, and peace to his people on earth.
Bishop Trevor Williams is on a mission. He's trying to work out what role the church should play in an increasingly secular Irish society.
If the church sees its own preservation as the only thing it's about, I think that's a very sad existence.
Since Trevor Williams became the Church of Ireland Bishop of Limerick and Killaloe, he's found that his position puts barriers between him and the people he serves.
The people that Jesus really had it in for were the religious leaders of his day. And now, being one of them, that is a hugely humbling thing that I need to bring myself back to all the time.
In last week's programme, he ditched the trappings of his position to go undercover as a very hands-on would you believe reporter. He wanted to find out, without deference or prejudice, about the needs of people.
Certainly, not being dressed up as a bishop makes it easier when you start off conversations. I think all of the paraphernalia and rig out of a bishop sort of says, gosh, this is a person who thinks they're much more important than I am, and who wants to meet a person like that, yeah.
Now he wants to give something back to the people who inspired him.
This is the gym. I see this, with glass up there, new roof.
He hopes to learn from a church that is very different from his own.
Some of our normal Church of Ireland people just coming in here might find this a little bit off-putting.
And he wants to show young people that they can have a voice in the church.
It wasn't just an act, it wasn't just a kind of a stunt. It was just something meaningful for you, was it?
Yeah.
But keeping his real identity under wraps will prove a challenge.
Are you a priest?
I've always wanted to wear one of these. Gosh, is that how you do it?
Oh, lovely, it suits you.
Bishop Trevor Williams presides over 64 churches and 2 cathedrals, but fewer than 3,000 parishioners.
Isn't that amazing? These places are full of surprises. Well, here you are. Here's Limerick.
The Church of Ireland was once a powerful institution, but is now a minority faith on the fringes of society.
I think the Church of Ireland is facing an amazing opportunity and an amazing challenge at the moment. I think all Christian denominations, all religious, all formal structures and institutions indeed, have to prove their worth. My goodness, you got the old and the new, you got medieval quarter on the one hand, and then you have Thomond Park as well over there. Fantastic.
Some of the oldest and most beautiful buildings in the country are the Church of Ireland's. But it is a church in decline. Today, less than 3% of the population are Anglican, and not all of them go to church.
I think on this journey, I'm hoping for 2 things. I'm hoping to learn a lot from the community that will actually help us to know how to be church better. I do believe the church has something to offer. I'm hoping that either in the short term or the long term, it might be a means by which we'll be able to make the church more relevant and closer to people.
While Bishop Trevor's congregation is shrinking, others are growing. So he's come to an evangelical Pentecostal church in Limerick, where there's standing room only.
They're very much more open about their emotions. Some people might say they wear their heart on the sleeve a bit.
Lord, I pray that when you hear that cry, when she directs that to you, you leap off that throne of yours.
But if you don't quite feel that emotion, you can feel very strange. So I imagine some of our normal Church of Ireland people just coming in here might find this a little bit off-putting. I might find it a little bit off-putting, in fact, because I'm not used to it.
Antioch was called the Antioch.
By slipping into the back row, the bishop hopes to learn why so many flock to a type of worship very different from his own church.
But we're about to discover that no matter what religions or ethnic groups or cultural groups are there, the more the gospel flourishes.
Pastor Kevin Fitzgibbon has been a leading member of the Abundant Life Church since its foundation in 1995.
He breeds love for the church. We would believe that if we're sick, let's pray for one another. We believe in healing. We believe God speaks to us today. He says, my sheep hear my voice. We don't throw out tradition, but we try and make the church as relevant as possible to the men in the street.
What's your hopes for the future?
Hopes for the future is that we will grow the church to 1,000 people. We believe there's a hunger in Limerick, there's a hunger in Ireland, because people are disillusioned with the church. They need to see something authentic, real. We don't want this to be a church where people just come in on a Sunday and go out again.
Do you think actually the churches are going to become stronger?
Yes, I do.
Why do you think that?
I sort of feel there is a revival of the Spirit of God coming, but it's not religious people. It's people who just are in love with Jesus and pass that news on.
I think it would take some time for me just to get used to this style of worship. And yes, I can't but admit they have a real contribution to make. They're really doing something important. They're connecting, obviously, with people very seriously. And I think we have a lot to learn from that.
If you're visiting here this morning,
more than 140 people from 25 different nationalities gather in the church on Sundays. John O'Brien was introduced to this church by his Congolese wife.
I've been brought up like in Catholic homes, so like my parents would have always went to mass on Sundays and stuff like that. So I went through stages of like I believe in God and I don't believe in God.
How important was the sense of welcome?
I think it was very important. What I saw as well was a genuine, like, these people, what they're saying is actually what they're believing, you know. I remember just feeling like I belong here, you know. Now I think my whole focus and my whole attention has changed like that. It's not really about my life anymore, but it's about, you know, what God wants to do in my life and through my life.
Kevin, thank you very much indeed. That was lovely. I really enjoyed it. I did, yeah, indeed. No, I really did.
Okay, thanks for taking the time out. It's a busy schedule.
Oh, it's great. Well, great what you're doing. Bless you. Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
Fantastic. You in your small corner, me in mine, eh? That's right. Okay. I'm not expecting that Church of Ireland will ever become Abundant Life, right? That's not going to happen. Enjoyed that this morning. Very much. Thank you. I was really impressed by the welcome I received, and I think that's really, for me, that's one of the most impressive things. I mean, you met people there, and it's almost as if you knew them all your life. It really was geared, really, not to carrying on a tradition, but actually, I mean, it was about encountering who God is now, what Jesus means to people's everyday lives. Pretty powerful stuff.
It can be easy for a church leader to get caught up maintaining the institution and buildings, rather than reaching out to people in their community.
Yeah, this isn't too bad, though I think they've had some trouble here. There's always leaks. While the towers look lovely, they are actually an awful bother. In this part of the world, the Church of Ireland population has been declining decade upon decade for, I don't know, for centuries, I think. There was a time, because of our association, I suppose, as the established church under British rule, when we were not flavour of the month. There's a bit of having to, in the past, of having to keep your head down. We have actually been trained into survival. How do we survive as a very small group? Whoops. Am I seeing something? Is that something to do with water? Probably so.
But some Church of Ireland people are working with the wider community.
So this is it. Great. Oh yeah. There's a good number of people here.
In last week's programme, Bishop Trevor visited the Kenmare Men's Shed. It was set up by Church of Ireland rector Michael Kavanagh for men to build boats and forge new friendships. But none of the locals realised the new man in the shed was a bishop.
It's good because, you know what I mean, it keeps people's interest up and things like that, you know, because the place is kind of, you know, a lot of the work and things has dried up and all.
All right.
Michael Kavanagh hopes to create a permanent home for the boat building project.
So at the moment what we're doing is we're looking to get bids and costings for how much it would cost just to refurbish this completely. Space for the shed, perhaps even make the boat repair business a commercial venture, you know.
Bishop Trevor has been inspired by how the men's shed fills a void in the lives of many isolated and lonely men. It's also a new and practical way of being church.
This is a church, but a different kind of church.
How interesting. We shouldn't be surprised if we actually encounter a sense of God in the men's shed where people are working together. Really making a difference, really transforming their society. In fact, they're behaving in a very Christian and in a way that I think is a model to the church.
Now the bishop wants to give something back to the Kenmare men. He's invited them to see another project he's involved with. The AK Island Boat Building School was set up in one of Limerick's most disadvantaged areas.
It's oozing creativity, this place. I've just found it so inspirational. It's the heart of kind of real creativity and a can-do attitude. Folks, welcome, great, good to see you all.
He hopes it will fire their imagination and offer valuable boat building contacts and resources.
Fantastic, good, hi. Great, hi Ken, hi, good, yeah, good to see you.
The bishop has also decided to break his cover.
I'm the local Church of Ireland bishop here in Limerick and down your area and up in Killaloo as well. I really enjoyed the trip down to see the men's shed in Kenmare, and I thought, when I came back, that I'd love you guys to just let you have a look, at another place that perhaps is a couple of months, maybe a couple of years ahead of where you are, and hopefully you'll be inspired by what you see. So come on in. Right. So here's one I prepared earlier, actually.
Just trying to figure out, is this a bit longer than ours? Lengthwise, I don't know, just trying to figure this out.
We'll just catch that side and we'll just roll this down.
James Madigan is a Curragh expert who teaches many different groups at the boat building school.
If you like. So if you want to, if you just catch that side.
We deal with kids from disadvantaged backgrounds. A lot of the kids have been state care.